Hello class, welcome back to my class. Today, I'll be teaching a concept so simple, even a 5th grader can understand it as my class. So, the concept we will be learning today is how to display categorical data. I'm going to explain it so simple that even a 5th grader can understand, even though this is a high school AP class, level class. Without further ado, let's get this started. If we want to learn about categorical data, we first have to understand it. So, the first question I have today, and what I will be teaching, is what is categorical data? Also, categorical data is also known as quantitative data to some, which describes categories or groups. So, categorical data is labels for specific groups. The simple definition is labels for specific groups which describe the values in that group. So, for example, if I have 4 cats, categorical data would describe these 4 cats. If I have 3 balls of yarn, categorical data would describe these 3 balls of yarn. If I have a group of people, categorical data would describe this group of people. Let's move on. Why does categorical data matter? This is very important because a lot of stuff you learn in high school will never apply to outside of school. However, categorical data will. Categorical data is essential in AP Stats because it allows us to analyze certain characteristics about groups instead of only looking at numbers. This helps us solve real-world problems. We can use categorical data to compare groups, find relationships in groups, or find patterns in real-life scenarios. For example, if we want to find a certain demographic of a certain group of people, we can use categorical data to find this information. Any questions? Perfect. Let's move on. The next big thing is, what is categorical data not? So this is very important to this concept, so make sure you pay close attention. Categorical data cannot include fractions or partial numbers. It does not measure numbers you can make calculations with, so no calculations are necessary. For example, if we're finding categorical data over this group of 4 people, we can't have half a person included in the data. We can't say an average of people wearing hats is 3/4 of a person. You could have 3 people, but you can't have 1/4 of a person because that doesn't make sense. Categorical data is only whole numbers. It includes the entire individual component. Any questions? Perfect. Here's some more examples of categorical data. So here we have a large list of eyes. These are different colored eyes. You can't have half of an eye or 1/3 of an eye. You can only have one full eye. So an example of categorical data you could not use are a list of numbers like 0.5, 1, 1.25, 1.75, because these are decimals and partial numbers, which you can't have partials of. Categorical data is strictly not this. Another example would be maths, would be school subjects or books of school subjects. For example, you can't have half a book, you only have one full book. You would have one full animal, but you can't have half an animal. You would have half a number, but not half an animal. And the custom example of categorical data, which I made, is the number of all students in Mr. Rose class. You can't have half of Gino, you can only have all of Gino. Any questions? I would also like to point out that categorical data is not relative. So even if Gino may be short compared to other students, he's still one full person of himself. Let's ignore that. How can we display categorical data? Some common examples are pie charts and counts/frequencies. Some problems to display are it may not have axis labels or scale, it may cut off the x or y axis, or it may use pictures for bar graphs, which is a very bad example. For example, you can have a bar graph which goes up to 10 or 5, and you can have a huge ball that looks gigantic on the graph, goes up to 10, and a tiny ball that goes all the way up to 5. You can fit, for example, 4 of these tiny balls in that huge ball. That makes it look statistically huge compared to the other wall. However, this is inaccurate because it wrongly displays the data, therefore is misleading. The last one is it may not be to scale or stressed in an arbitrary place. For example, the example I just used. Now, this is the end of the lesson. I would thank you all for your time, and hopefully you can go out in the world and do something better with your lives with this knowledge. Thank you.